Hello and welcome back to the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast with me, your host Ryan, the founder of Rocket SaaS, and we are back in the studio with an old forgotten guest.
I know, it's been a while.
Jamie's been away. He's had a baby and he's come back.
Yeah, big time.
How are you finding being a dad?
It's been amazing, to be fair. I'm now adapting back into work life after the pat leave. But yeah, it's been good so far. I've had quite a well-behaved baby for the first couple of weeks, so I've been quite lucky so far. A couple of the odd tantrums here and there, but overall she's been good as gold. It's been amazing.
You've done well to have the odd tantrum. But yeah, hopefully you're lucky like I was. My daughter Isabel sleeps like a log.
Yeah, I'm crossing my fingers, to be honest.
Like 8:30 this morning, I was like, hello, you want to go to nursery or not? So yeah, hopefully you're lucky like I was.
I'm getting 5 hours of sleep at least a night. Okay. So anyone who does work at Rocket SaaS, I'm on form for you, don't worry.
Good. On behalf of the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast listeners, congratulations. I'm sure you'll be an amazing dad. but me being the classic marketer that I am, when I was about to become a dad, about 2.5 years ago, I did a bit of market research. So every call that I went on with clients or prospects, any time I was speaking to a dad, I was like, hey, so I'm about to become a dad. Do you have any advice? I must have asked like 50 dads. And most of them, quite worryingly, were just like, no, not sure. And then a lot of the dads just gave the old like generic classic tips like, cherish every moment. And all that stuff, which didn't really help me very much. But one guy, Tom, over at Team, the employer of record platform, he did actually give me some decent, tangible advice. He said, Ryan, go to the pub. And I thought, this is good. This is a good tip. Tell me more. Yeah. And he said, what you want to do is you want to get into a rhythm of like once a week at least, take your child to the pub and leave mum at home. Particularly in those kind of early few months. Yeah. It's really important for mum to just relax, have a bit of me time. Because what you can find when you've got a kid is that mum's just everywhere, always with you at all times. You have to be like, no, you're staying at home. I've got this. Take your kid to the pub, and it's really helpful for bonding. You walk into the pub and you're a bit of a legend because you walked in with this newborn baby and everyone wants to speak to you. You make lots of friends, and it's just a nice routine. It really just helps with bonding, and it helps mum realise that actually he's actually capable of looking after the baby without me.
Well, the gun or the waterman's by me is going to get a lot more custom next year.
Yeah, so I'm passing that tip on to you. You can thank Tom for that.
Oh, brilliant.
But yeah, speaking of the pub, that kind of nicely leads us on to this episode that we're going to talk about today. It's not about me not drinking, but there is a segue to this. So I set out at the start of this year that I wasn't going to drink alcohol for the whole year. I decided that 2026 was going to be the big lock-in year for the business. I was a bit worried that AI was coming to take my company away from me, and I really wanted to scale the business. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, hangovers and drinking, that's just going to get in the way.
They're out. So 2025.
Yeah. So I'm not drinking alcohol all year. But last night I got hammered. I fell off the wagon last night. But it was like tactical drinking. We were celebrating. Jamie's hungover as well, by the way. He was with me at the pub.
I was there.
And we are celebrating because Rocket SaaS has flown from $5 to $7 million in ARR in the space of 3 months. We've just gone woof. We were flying anyway, and we've just massively grown over the last 3 months.
They're locked in, baby. See, locked in.
Yeah,
till last night, locked in.
Yeah, now I'm drinking again. I'm going to lose it all. But no, I'm back on the wagon as of today.
Back on the wagon.
But anyway, so we were basically celebrating this the growth of the company, and we thought we'd make this episode today to talk about like what did we do, why have we had such crazy growth in the last 3 months, and how you can apply some of those things to your business. So there were 3 main reasons why I think we have scaled so rapidly in the last 3 months. One is we won this massive deal. One is we won this $1 million contract with the client. So that immediately jumped our revenue by 1 million. So we're going to get into the kind of the specifics of that deal. Not actually allowed to reveal who they are, but we're going to get into like how did we acquire that deal, because it was like an 18-month process. It was really interesting. And then the other thing that we did is we increased our pricing. So we analyzed our HubSpot data, which told us that we had a close rate of 48%. So SQLs that come into the business of companies that are qualified, they've got the money, they're the right fit for us, and they've said they want to have a sales conversation with us. That's how we would describe an SQL. And we closed 48% of them. And then I did some research and realized that if you have a close rate of higher than 30%, the general consensus is you should increase your pricing. And we were way above 30%. So that just gave us the sort of knowledge, the data that told us that we should raise our pricing. And that's what we did. Our close rate hasn't dropped, but our revenue, our profit has just taken a massive jump. So you just sort of snap your fingers and you're just immediately making more profit and more revenue, which is amazing. So that's one thing that we did. And then also we looked at our pricing tiers. So we do the classic like gold, silver, bronze pricing package. And we decided to get rid of the bronze. We just like deleted that one. That was a £2,000 a month package. We just analysed that we just weren't making much money out of it, basically. And it was just bringing in quite small clients that we struggled to get results for because they never gave us enough ad spend. So just getting rid of that had multiple kind of helpful factors across the business. And what it also did is it just made us go a bit more upmarket. So essentially by just tweaking our pricing, changing our tiers, we added a fourth tier, which is like a 15 grand package. It was a very easy shift to make, essentially on the website and just updating the sales deck. But what it meant was we're going up market. Now we're targeting bigger clients, and it immediately worked. We just started having more conversations with bigger clients. We started landing bigger deals. So, sometimes we try and be really clever about marketing and sales. Sometimes it's quite as simple as increasing pricing, tweaking the packages. And it's something that we've done at the business like multiple times over the years, is like changing the pricing, tweaking the packages. And it doesn't hurt to try, basically. You can increase your pricing, you can change your gold, silver, bronze tiers for like a trial period of 1 month or 3 months, for example. If it doesn't work and leads start to drop, you put it back to where it was. I've done that before. It doesn't look like I need to do it this time, but yeah, that's it. You don't have to kind of go all in forever on pricing. You can experiment, like A/B test these things, which is what we've done. So yeah, pricing's been a really interesting increase for us, and that's really helped us just close bigger deals. But yeah, Jamie, anything to add on pricing, particularly for SaaS companies?
Yeah. So obviously this was something that we talked about a lot, like in recent months, and it was kind of on our radar that we had a lot of business coming to us. We had an engine that was working really efficiently, and you were closing deals like there's no tomorrow. So like that was on our mind, that we had this option kind of like to start increasing the prices to see kind of if that close rate drops, does the price increase make up for it? Are we going to make more money, etc.? And I think probably the biggest thing I would say in that process that we did is what you touched on, in terms of making the packages align with that new pricing as well, would have really helped us. Because like there was things like, I think previously, maybe in the last sort of like 12 months ago, our packages had core services that we offered to clients. And typically those packages scaled up based on you'd get more of those services. Obviously what's happened in the business, especially in the last kind of like 18 months, just over time in general, new people come into the business, new technology, new ideas, new ways of work. The way we work with clients is changing. Like we're learning all the time about kind of what works for clients and what we can set up for them. And so like one example of that might be like we've talked a lot about on the podcast, like setting up Clay, building account lists, running ABM Lite programs for clients. That data piece was something that wasn't like a central part of the agency maybe 18 months ago, but now is a very core bit of work that we do. So that's something that we've layered into the higher tier packages that really differentiates what we're doing beyond just kind of doing more for clients. It differentiates what we're actually offering at the higher tier package. So again, what we've kind of gone with is fundamentally we've restructured what a client gets on the back end at a higher tier package. So we're offering more value. So we're able to charge more price, charge a higher tier pricing. And we knew that we had that close rate at such a high level at that point that we had the comfort and the space to be able to test that without kind of upsetting everything, basically.
Yeah, the pricing page is one of the most visited pages on your website, or it certainly should be. And also your sales deck, where you show your pricing, is the most important slide on your whole sales deck. So we've put so much time into both of those, that page and that slide, to make it the best, highest converting it can possibly be. Like we had problems in the past where everyone was signing up for the bronze package because the silver package was the same, just more. The gold package was the same, just more. So everyone was going, oh, I'll start with bronze, and if we're happy, then we'll scale up. but we weren't making much money out of bronze. That was a massive problem. So we had to tweak it so that we had to remove particular services from bronze. Like, no, you don't get a little bit of it, you get none. You don't get any LinkedIn ads on the bronze package. So therefore it just forced everybody, they kind of had to go for the silver. So little tweaks like that is something that businesses can do. Like if you're giving away too much on the lower package, or if you're finding that all of your customers, pretty much like over 70% of your customers, are signing up to the lowest tier package, that's presumably a problem for you because you don't make much money from it. So therefore, you need to do kind of what I just said there, is potentially just, being brave enough to just delete certain features and services and benefits from that lower one and just force them kind of into the middle. And also, like, psychologically, generally people do go for the middle. And that's been a really good exercise that we've done, is just making the middle one just more attractive. And something we've done recently, if you go to the Rocket SaaS website, you can see we've actually got 4 tiers now. We used to have gold, silver, bronze. We've now got like a platinum one, which means we've now got 2 in the middle. So psychologically, people are going for one of the 2, and that's also had a really positive impact in terms of pricing. Because what I found, like particularly in the sales process, like you never really know how much money someone's got. If they've raised funding, you kind of do, but otherwise people are obviously quite coy about their pricing. And I've often found us like underselling our services. I'd be like, you should probably go for the silver one, when actually I could have sold them onto the gold one, and then I've ended up convincing them down. So what I'm sort of saying is you should be putting a lot of effort into your pricing structure and your pricing table. If you haven't updated your pricing table, your sales deck, which shows your pricing, if you haven't done that in a while, it's an exercise you almost definitely should be doing. But let's move on. Let's talk about the next one, which is, before we get into this big, massive $1 million deal that we won, let's talk about reducing churn. So that's a big thing that we've done. Obviously, all B2B SaaS companies listening, churn is potentially a massive problem. And we've done a lot of good exercises here, which we're also advising our clients to do. One of the most important things that we did is basically tracking the numbers. So we have like a client happiness score. So we don't actually survey clients, but what we do is all of the customer success managers that are managing the accounts, on a weekly basis, they have to fill out a survey that says, how happy do you think this client is from 1 to 10? And then the senior leadership team, we have a dashboard that we look at every single week, which is this big sort of traffic light system. We've got all like 75 Rocket SaaS clients on there. And thankfully, we're seeing like a sea of green at the moment, which is awesome. But every now and then, like an orange one or a red one pops up. Yeah. And we're like, right, let's need to act on this. Like, what's going on with this red account? Why are they not happy? What's going on? And then the senior people, it's not the people that are running the account, it's the senior people in the company are like, right, let's do a quick roundtable on this red account. Why is it red? What can we do? Do we need to loop someone in? Do we need to maybe get me or Jamie to jump on a call with the client and sort of understand what's happening, smooth things over, etc. So it just means we're acting like super fast. And then the customer success people are really happy with that, because it means that they don't lose accounts, and they got senior people helping them out with accounts that they're struggling with. So that's been a brilliant exercise. And then also tracking the numbers in terms of the leads that they're getting or whatever metrics that they're trying to get for their goals. So that's something that B2B SaaS companies can be doing. If you have a customer success team, they should be filling out a survey at least weekly to say how happy they think they are, how happy they think the customer is, and also tracking data. Also data points as well. Like, one of the main reasons why people churn from SaaS platforms is they're just not using it. So really you should have some kind of notification system to say this customer hasn't logged in the last 7 days. An alert should go up. And then you can act on that and give them a call, give them an email. Is everything okay with the platform? Anything we can do for you? Just need to get them using it again. But anything else to add on that in terms of reducing churn?
Yeah, I think the comms aspect is something worth kind of raising. So we've always been really active in just typically in terms of how we communicate with clients, like our day-to-day communications runs through Slack. So we have a Slack channel with our clients, and then we run kind of project management and all of the task-based stuff for Asana. All of our projects are managed through there. And then informally, sometimes we can use email, but those are the 2 main channels. We've always been really active with clients when we're communicating to them, but I would say that one thing that we've been really just structured with, particularly in the last kind of 6 to 12 months, just incrementally, is getting better at one, kind of the process behind how we communicate. So what we've kind of mandated is internally, the SLAs we expect on the response times to clients. How we communicate has become really important. There's structures around how we communicate, particularly at the end of the week, for example, when it's getting towards the end of the week, a roundup from the account manager or the marketing manager of a pod who manages our clients. they will go out and they will kind of do a roundup using kind of like a traffic light system, which just, again, small things, but like just being able to have a really quick digestible roundup so the client knows what's happening, what's blocked, what's not, etc. And that's really clear going into next week. So when there's a meeting maybe next week, like they're already informed about it, they don't feel out of the loop. That's been really, really strictly enforced. And I think just in general, like tightening up comms to be a very mandated process rather than reactive. That's probably the main takeaway, to be honest, that applies across businesses, is that like proactive, structured, process-based comms versus like reactive to the client or the customer. That's super, super important. That's helped us a lot.
Yeah, comms is arguably the most important thing when it comes to churn, other than obviously like the quality of the product, of course. But I recently churned. So we had a supplier, a guy that was doing SEO, sort of freelance SEO work for us, and I chose to stop working with him for a few different reasons. And then I was thinking to myself, like, what could he have done better to stop me of churning? And then I realized that I didn't really have a relationship with him. Like we never did calls. We didn't have a Slack channel together. He would just like email me every now and then. So I just, in my mind, I felt he was kind of disposable. I didn't really have there's no friendship there.
There's no working relationship.
There's no working relationship. I just felt I could just, very easily just send an email, sorry, I'm cancelling. Whereas I thought to myself, because he's sort of relatively new, kind of starting out a new business, and I thought I'd give him some advice. And I was like, look, to prevent this in future, you should probably be doing asking your clients for like a monthly call, even to just like build rapport is really important, because even if your platform, your solution is not actually delivering that many results yet, if there's still not yet an ROI, if you've got a friendship and if you've got professional relationship with that person, you like that person, you share a few jokes with each other, they're likely that they're not going to churn as easily. Some people will, but a lot of them won't. Is that they'll stay with you if you've got that relationship. So it depends. I mean, obviously, a lot of companies don't want to have a monthly call with their SaaS platform provider, depending on what it is. But a lot of companies, it doesn't hurt to ask, and it can just really massively help.
There's definitely like a lesson, like even if you're offering like a software product. Like there's still an element of service like that's like required to make that relationship a good relationship. Like I think particularly with a SaaS product, it can feel a bit like robotic at times, like you're kind of just like another cog in the machine. If there is ways that you can kind of like tidy up on the way you communicate to those people, even just making them feel like if something doesn't go right, like if you can make them feel like they've been treated really, really well, like they might have more confidence that the product's going to get better and that won't happen in future. It's just like the confidence in the people behind the product does make a lot of difference in how you perceive either the future of that product or your kind of like current relationship with it. Obviously, the product and what it delivers is always going to be what ends up driving the decision, but that relationship and that level of service, I think, goes a long way.
And also, because everybody is recording their calls that they have with customers, if you're not, I hope that you start today, the AI is just soaking up really useful information. So if you're doing a monthly customer success call with your clients or weekly or whenever, and you're asking them questions about, what are your challenges at the moment, what are your thoughts on the industry, is there anything that's kind of concerning you at the moment, or where do you see your business going with AI over the next few years? AI is just like soaking up this information. And if you like multiply that by like 100 calls and then start to ask the AI, like, what are the most common problems that my clients are talking about? What are the most common like features that they're looking for? How do they feel about AI? That is just marketing gold. It basically tells you this is what your customers are thinking and that's what they want, and these are their problems. So therefore, all of your prospects that you want to sign, they're going to be thinking the same thing. So create content about that stuff. So yeah, the more you don't get that if you're only doing Slack messages and you're only doing emails with your customers. So yeah, having regular calls is going to reduce churn, and it's just going to give you gold for the marketing content side of things. So moving on then to the final thing that we want to talk about today in terms of how Rocket SaaS have scaled so far over the last 3 months is this massive $1 million deal that we won. So not allowed to reveal who it is yet. I will be soon, but we can certainly talk about how we went about winning this $1 million deal. Because the way that I look at it is it was an 18-month process of lots of little things, some strategic hiring, partnerships, a little bit of luck and timing, which is all really important factors to go into winning big deals. So the way that I look at it is that it started 18 months ago, actually, when we hired you. So I think the day that you accepted, the day that you signed the contract, actually, not even before you joined, I think was actually the way I see it starting, is because the way I kind of looked at the business was like, and this is an exercise I recommend that every business does, is I thought, who would be my dream client? Like if I could have a case study about any client, who would that be? Who would be my ultimate dream client? So for me, being a demand generation marketing agency for SaaS companies, I thought, okay, who is the most impressive, well-known B2B SaaS company that has had massive growth with demand generation marketing? Who would I love to have as a client? And the answer, probably at the top of the list, was Cognizant. I really admired that brand, really admired what they did with their marketing and their demand generation. I would have absolutely loved to have had them as a client and then create a case study for them. But they didn't work with Rocket SaaS, so I couldn't. So I did the next best thing, which is I hired someone from Cognizant, right? So I didn't headhunt you, you actually came to us. Yeah. But what you brought was that logo, which was amazing. So like as soon as you signed the contract, every time I was doing a sales call, I'd be like, I've got the ex-head of demand generation manager at Cognizant joining Rocket SaaS. And they'd be like, oh, wow, okay, I've heard of them. Yeah, they're really impressive growth. Oh, that's really good. And it would just elevated my business so much. So, and then we would have all that in sales conversations. And then when you joined the business and we did webinars together, it would be Ryan from Rocket SaaS, and it wasn't Jamie from Rocket SaaS. It was Jamie ex-Cognizant. This is how I would promote you. And then we would just always be able to kind of leverage that we have really serious experts in the business who have worked with these big brands previously. So that made me realize like the importance of strategic hiring. So we've now hired a bunch of other people from Cognizant, and now we can start to say that we've got such experts that have worked for these big brands. We've got people at Rocket SaaS that have worked for companies like Paddle, and it's just so like powerful, particularly in the sales process when people are kind of buying into us. Is that, yeah, we've got great case studies and we've also got really senior expertise that have worked for these massive brands. So that was like the first thing that I think, the first kind of like seed for this big deal. And then the other thing was partnerships. So on a previous episode of the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast, we talked about the importance of creating partnerships and the founder-led network one. I can't remember which number it is. But anyway, so yeah, we started to form these partnerships with companies. And I don't know, Jamie, you can perhaps talk about that, of how you kind of reached out to this person.
Yeah, so I can speak to this a little bit. So yeah, this would have been a few months back. Me and Ryan were both talking about potentially trying to build some partnerships with fractional CMOs in the space, and building a package, particularly with very senior fractional CMOs who worked with specific segments that we were trying to target. To help us crack into those segments, basically. So what we did was, there was one fractional CMO that I had a connection with that I wanted to sort of like float this with. And what we did is we built a package and idea, and we kind of pitched it as a bit of a big idea, really, to go to them with. And it was it was mainly framed around them, to be honest. It was about making it a bit of a no-brainer for them, and making the value very, very clear that they would have to do not very much to get a lot back. And so I kind of just reached out with an exploratory kind of bit of outreach, and started the process from there. Kind of went with my offer, just led with this kind of concept. It was not really much of an ask at the time. It was basically like, here's this big idea, like here's what you'll get from it, here's your lift, which was very minimal at the time. Like, would you be open to literally just a chat to explore if this works for you, basically? And basically what ended up happening was, so that person was between roles, and they was about to move into a new role, so they couldn't commit to the idea that I had come up with. But what that led to was that bit of outreach started a process where that person was essentially looking to wind down their fractional engagements, and started to look at us as an option. And started to just try and find ways to work with us, because they valued what we'd gone out with, and they liked the idea of working with us, and they wanted to make it work. And so that just started a partnership, basically started the process.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is, you reached out with a very well-crafted partnership offer. Turns out that offer didn't come to fruition, but something else did.
And something else did, yeah.
Yeah, and that is an excellent kind of way of looking at this. Like if you've got a SaaS platform that serves a particular audience, have a little think, similar to what I said about strategic hiring, like who can you hire from a company that you really admire to add elevate your brand. You can also do it from a partner point of view. So you can be like, okay, so who would be an amazing like advisor to our company? Who's like an influencer? Who's well known in the space? And you could potentially do a partnership with them where you were like, okay, you can do like some kind of consultation, some kind of advisory to our clients, and we provide the SaaS platform that helps deliver that kind of advisory strategy thing. So then you can start just like tagging that person on to your marketing. Say, oh, we work with this person. If you work with us, you get some consultancy, some advisory from this person. Obviously, that person gets paid. So you can approach this person and say, I've got a pretty lucrative offer for you. You just got to do a little bit of consultancy or advice, and we'll pay you for it. And then they'll sign up to our platform. So that's another great way of looking at it. And that's pretty much what we did. Is we were like, okay, we want. The exercise really was about us wanting to go up market, wasn't it? We wanted to sign bigger deals.
And we wanted to leverage this profile.
So this $1 million deal that we signed, like we kind of signed it because we decided that we want to go up market. And we said, okay, so how do we go up market? These big, massive companies are not really going to work with Rocket SaaS because we don't have the kind of other case studies of these other massive brands. But who does? And we want to partner with those people that do, in a way. And so obviously not competitors, but people that do adjacent things, like being a fractional CMO, or people that have worked for massive brands. So you approach these companies and just try and create some kind of a partnership, whether it is the advisory consultancy thing that I mentioned, or it could be as much as just co-hosting webinars together. You can pay these people to co-host a webinar with you. If it was a real well-known influencer in the space, it depends on your deal value, obviously, but you could offer them £1,000 to co-host a webinar with you, which is pretty easy money for them if they're used to doing this sort of thing, and your signups will just kind of go through the roof. So strategically thinking about the partnerships was a key thing in this deal. And then the other thing was, like I said, a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing, is that they moved to a new business. They became advising at this business, and because we created that partnership, they basically took us with them. And that happens with these big deals. Like when you have partnerships, when you have friendships, when you have done good work for people, them moving from one company to another can often be amazing. So like we've had it at Rocket SaaS where we've worked with a client, been a pretty small SaaS company, done some really good work with them, created a really good relationship with the marketing manager, and suddenly, poof, they move over to this huge brand and they're like, I'm taking Rocket SaaS with me. So from this one pretty small client, suddenly, without you even trying, that they move and you get this massive deal come in. So I think to summarize that, I think strategic hiring, big brands just really elevated Rocket SaaS. The other thing was creating those partnerships, reaching out to people, even if the partnership doesn't come off, you're creating that, planting that seed kind of thing, and then just a little bit of luck with the timing of when people move business.
I would say that if you're trying to start a relationship with someone, and like in our context, like the person who we wanted to like partner with was like a big player that we wanted to kind of like work with, we did go with the attitude, like I mentioned, of like we came to them and made it super obvious of like what we wanted from them, which was very little, and we was going to give a lot back. And to be honest, like if I was saying it to anyone, that I think there's a lot of people who try and kind of like say, we'll just chance it, or like we'll do like a little kind of like, if we do this and you get this and it's an equal partnership. Sometimes you need to kind of give away a lot to get a bigger advantage down the line. And to be honest, that's what we kind of got. And to be honest, it worked out really well for us because we didn't even have to do what we said we was going to do. It just kind of organically came to fruition. But that was our attitude going into it, and I think that played out well.
Yeah, I've tried partnerships with the whole referral thing, and I don't think it's hardly ever worked, really. It's when you approach someone and be like, hey, you've never heard of me before, but if you recommend businesses to us, I'll give you 10% of the deal. And everyone always responds like, okay, yeah, sounds good. And then it just like nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
You often need something much more powerful than that. Like, I'm going to pay you like $5,000 if we partner on this thing, or if you were co-host a webinar with me, I'm going to give you £1,000. That sort of thing is obviously much more attractive. That's going to get things moving, as opposed to these kind of vague, loose promises like, if you get me a client, I will give you this. It's like, no, I'm going to give you this. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. So I think it's good to think of it in the lens of strategically, like who would you be willing to give a lot to, whether that's time, money, effort, resource, whatever. Who would you be willing to give that to? Because they're going to cause an outsized result for your business down the line. Because otherwise, that's not going to be worth the time and the effort, and the money pouring. But for us, that kind of partnership is like where it's really interesting.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you, Jamie. I don't think that was too bad of an episode, despite the hangovers. But yeah, next week we will be sober on the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast. I look forward to seeing you there.